So I made a mistake. Last week was supposed to be the release of an update on a previous guest, Davey, and it's a beautiful episode. And I uploaded the rerun by mistake. So this is the new episode. It's 25 minutes long, and I really encourage you to listen to it because it's a beautiful story. My apologies to Davey and to you. Hello and welcome to the Giving Voice to Depression podcast, brought to you by Recovery.com, the best place to find mental health and addiction treatment for anyone, anywhere.
Each week, we profile a guest who shares openly about their mental health journey. They share because they understand that when people don't talk about their depression or other mental health conditions, those of us who do struggle with them can feel like we're the only ones, that there's something wrong with us and that no one understands. We understand.
I'm Terry McGuire, the creator and co-host of this podcast. You have my promise that we'll keep it real here. Depression is real, and we're not going to sugarcoat our discussions about it.
Hope is also real, and you'll get a dose of that here too. I'm Carly McCullough, a licensed social worker and educator, and Terry's daughter. We've both experienced depression and also support loved ones struggling with it. We're here to normalize talking about depression and mental health in our communities, as well as our families.
And to share real-world tested strategies that have worked for other people who have walked similar paths. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Carly.
Hi, Mom. For years, depression may have felt like proof that something was wrong with you. But understanding it through a different lens, in this case, complex PTSD or CPTSD, can change your story. Your mental health struggles aren't personal failures. They may well have been responses to what you lived through.
That shift can open the door to self-compassion, better treatment, and real healing. When you finally understand your why, life can begin to feel less like a battle with yourself and more like a path back to yourself. Such is the case with this week's guest, Davey. We first interviewed him nearly a decade ago in the early days of Giving Voice. He recently reached out saying we should do a follow-up because so much had changed for him.
And for a little background, CPTSD is a lasting trauma response that can develop after someone has been exposed to repeated or ongoing trauma, especially when they felt trapped, powerless, or unable to escape it. Unlike PTSD, which is often connected to a single traumatic event, CPTSD is more often linked to trauma that happens over time, such as childhood abuse or neglect, domestic violence, captivity, repeated emotional abuse, or living for years in an unsafe environment.
Here is Davey giving his voice to depression again. So talk to me. You reached out to do a follow-up, and I'm curious as to why. What's going on?
Actually, my doctor recommended that I do that because you know where I was before, and she said, share where you are now, she said, because it should be very encouraging for people. So here I am.
Tell me, for somebody who hasn't heard your first episode, although I will post it the week before this update, where were you before?
Very dark. It was very dark.
It was so dark, in fact, that Davey not only had frequent suicidal thoughts, which can be common in CPTSD, but he made a plan and even did what he calls a trial run of it.
And I remember just laughing, just how easy this is going to be, and I can depart from this world, but I didn't want to do it then. That's where I was for many years. So that's about as dark as it gets. So then exactly 3 years ago, I went with my doctor. She's been just great. And I never thought about this before, but I opened up about my childhood. And that appointment was about 8 minutes in, and she took a piece of paper and wrote, you have this. And she wrote CPTSD on it. Mm-hmm. And that opened so many doors for me. I know it's depression, but the CPTSD caused it for me. My life as a child wasn't good. I was abused, and I was never loved. I was never told I was loved. And that scarred me through my life. I lost my sister that was closest to me when I was a kid, and I had no counseling, no help. So I guess my depression turned out it was all environmental and not a chemical imbalance because medication didn't help me. But I worked hard, and I can I say names of books that have helped me?
Sure, please.
I was recommended the book CPTSD From Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. What a help. Like my last 3 years, I've understood that there's nothing wrong with me. I just came to understand my value as a human being.
The book Davey mentioned lists many of the common developmental arrests for people who have experienced childhood abuse and neglect, including diminished self-acceptance, self-compassion, self-esteem, and overall confidence. Learning and working on that has shifted Davey's perception of not just his depression, but of himself.
Well, it's a world of difference for me. I mean, I'm not the same person. And I'm beginning to believe my doctor now with what I've been through in the last while that I just couldn't go back to where I was, to those dark places. It amazes me. It amazes me how resilient I've become with life, and I think like, okay, through my life, like I would live a normal sort of life and it'd never be tested. But trust me, it's been tested the last few years of my life. It has been truly tested. And I'm really beginning to believe that I have the strength and my healing is very well, I'm on a very good healing journey. I will never say that I recovered because I mean, we always got to work on it, I believe. I speak for myself. And hope there's something there for somebody else. But boy, it's changed me so much. And I'm just so thankful for that.
What's the difference inside you understanding and learning that your depression was a trauma response?
I could see parts of me, my life, and how the childhood affected me. And the way it made me become like a perfectionist. And that's enough to drive a person around the bend when you think you have to always do things right and never make a mistake. Not because you think you're better than anyone else, it's because you didn't want to suffer the wrath of making a mistake. And that just adds to the stress, and eventually it wears you down. I think our mind is like our body. When we abuse ourselves like that, mentally, the mind finally says one day, like, I can't take this anymore. And when I was diagnosed with the CPTSD, that's what put me on that road, that I don't have to abuse my mind and self like that anymore. I didn't deserve it. And I was able to start to process stuff like that.
While many people resist or deny labels or mental health diagnoses, others like Davey welcome the clarity they can offer.
So I left the office thinking, okay, that sounds interesting. Okay. I know PTSD and I understand that. I mean, a lot of medical first responders, but the CPTSD, what makes it complex is it's stored memory that really, really feeds that. And that's what I learned and understood. And like I said, when I let the lid off the childhood, when I thought, you know what, I was a kid, I got beat with a razor strap, and I got threatened to be sent to reform school for the silliest of things, like breaking a window. And on the time, I just lived in fear, like vigilant. Is that what the word is?
Yes.
Always vigilant. What mood your father would be in when he got home?
Yes.
Because you didn't know what was okay today would be bring you wrath tomorrow. And that's my childhood that I lived out with. So, but I thought I had a normal childhood. I always thought I had a good childhood. I was fed, I was clothed, I was sheltered, but I wasn't loved. I never knew love, and it's so vital.
So as you were reading that book and realizing, oh my gosh, this is what's going on, what was that feeling like?
Relief. Saying, oh, okay, I can learn this. I can understand this. This has caused this, caused the perfectionism in you. And when you couldn't meet it, and when you weren't loved, like, it's really hard to, I guess, put into words what growing through life as a child, not being loved, not knowing love, and not thinking you're worthy of love, and living your life like that, like just because you didn't know what love was, and were taught my value as a human being that I deserve to be loved. So I just went through my life thinking I'm not loved. I'm just basically a machine to work, do my thing, and not expect any forgiveness or anything like that from anyone. Just roll along in life. And I know when I talked to you on the first one, I said that eventually I got to the point where I thought I just can't do life because I was so tired of living that way, that I wasn't worthy of the air that I breathed. but yet I kept going on doing my duty, as a father, as a husband, and fulfilling my role with people, but always thinking that I just didn't know what love was.
So your value came from the things you did, not from who you are?
Yes, 100%. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's something that still I really have to work on, because that haunts me. I mean, this stuff still haunts me. Every now and then these things will haunt me in my mind, and I say, you know what? I deserve to be loved just for who I am and not for what I do. And that's not easy. Like, I'm not going to say that I have a real handle on that yet, but I have to keep working on it every day.
So when you say you're doing so much better, which is what you wrote in your original email, what does so much better look like on a daily basis?
You love life.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You sleep like a log. You get up and you just enjoy the day. The day is here, and you take the life events that are not always pleasant, and you just process them and remind yourself that this is life. This is the reflection on you. Nothing to do with you. You'll get through this, and just every day. I honestly now I can't believe where I was. I'm thankful that I didn't put myself in the ground, because I enjoy life now. Every day I'm happy. I sleep like a log with no medication. Um, Everything through life, I don't take any kind of medication at all. And again, I'm thankful because it's environmental and I don't have the chemical imbalance. And if there's medication to do help that, but I believe that with even the medication and the hard work, there is a huge light at the end of the tunnel. There's life. There's just life there. Mm-hmm.
So the Davey you are now,
Mm-hmm.
if you met the Davey you were, say, in 2017 when you were diagnosed with major depressive disorder, what would you say to him?
Ooh. I'd say hang in there. Uh, yeah, learn your value. Uh, don't entertain those thoughts, because you deserve much better. You deserve to be in this world. You're needed. Uh, yeah, and the spot you're in now, you won't be there in 7 or 8 years. Could that's hard for me to sit here and answer that right now, because I'm actually talking to that guy, and I know where he was. Sorry. Uh, yeah. I would just say, yeah, there's light at that end of that tunnel for you. And I heard that saying so many times, and I make comments that, yeah, well, somebody took the bulb out of it. There's no light at the end of that tunnel. There's just nothing there, right? Well, I'm through the tunnel now. I'm not in the tunnel. I'm through the tunnel, and it's sunshine.
Wow. I'm so glad you are doing so much better. And I'm so grateful that you reached back out, because there are so many people, including myself for years, who did not believe things could change.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many different ways things can change. And you're showing another one.
As human beings, like, we have to know that, right? We have to understand that we're lovable and we should be loved. And because we never knew it and knew what love was, like, that's not our fault. But our duty now is to learn and understand that we are a lovable creature.
Yeah.
It's so good for the mental health when you start to look at that and know what you won't accept or tolerate in your life. The people you won't accept or tolerate in your life anymore, because they're toxic. They're simply toxic. And I think a lot of them knew where you were and liked to hold you in that position and do their part the best they could to keep you there. And when they see you start to rise and shine, well, they don't want to be in your life, but that's great, because you didn't want them in your life. You realize that before they did. So you move on. Yeah. I mean, you have to say goodbye to some people you never thought you ever could do that to, but you have to do it. Because there's other better people waiting for you out there, right?
Yep.
And I'm totally speaking from myself, okay?
Always.
Where I was and where I am.
So for somebody listening who is where you used to be, in a dark place, believing probably the terrible things their mind tells them about themselves. What do you want to say to them from where you are now?
That you're valuable. You're as valuable as anybody else. And to know that. And you deserve to be loved just for who you are. And we're all as good as anybody else. Doesn't matter how much you make in a year or anything, or how good looking you are or ugly you are or whatever we are, we're still valuable. And to learn and understand our value, that's then been huge for me. Huge.
When you talk about the toxic people in your life, I had a therapist say to me once that takers are always going to find givers.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the givers are the people that don't have a good feeling about themselves, that have low self-esteem, right? And the predators move in on them.
I'm so grateful to you. You have a big heart. I know.
Well, I'm grateful to you and what you do.
Thanks. But that you want to share is so beautiful, because it's like, I feel better. And then there's the next level. I want other people to know that it's possible. And I think that's beautiful.
And my doctor hadn't gave me that reassurance. I may have not reached out to you because I wouldn't have believed in myself as much as I do now. Could never go back to where I was. I believe I'm not far along in my journey that I could just never go back. Yeah, I can have bad days, down for a day. But that's the thing now. If I'm down for a day. And I'm back up the next day. Not down, and no light at the end of the tunnel. Like I said, I'm through the tunnel. I'm in the sunshine. And I'm really happy about that.
I'm really happy for you. Thank you so much.
And thank you. Thank you for what you do.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Get to meet people like you.
Thanks.
Wow. Really special to have such a clear example of someone who found a light at the end of the tunnel. Nobody took the light bulb after all, and just how beautiful that he thought to reach out and share his progress with us. And everyone's path to healing is so different.
And it was his medical doctor who said, like, hey, this is what you've got. That wasn't his therapist. That wasn't a psychiatrist.
I have seen an uptick in mental health related intake forms, even at my own doctor, asking, how often I'm feeling down and those sorts of things, because of how interrelated our bodies are, right? Mental health and physical health. It's not as if our brain is separate from our body, and all of the systems have to do with one another. So I'm very grateful to all the medical doctors out there who understand and are thinking holistically about health, including mental health.
I also think there's less stigma. And for people who are like, I'm crazy, I don't need to see a therapist, you have to go to a doctor. So when you're at your doctor, maybe mention you're not sleeping or whatever the symptoms of your depression are, because it was, in fact, my primary care physician also who diagnosed me and got me on meds, which got me out of the horrible depression that led to this podcast.
Thanks for sharing that. It's another example of how many ways people find their way to diagnoses and labels that support them in getting better. And I think that it is clear that for Davey, having a name for CPTSD was really supportive in his ability to recover, was instrumental in his ability to experience life differently. And a lot of people can feel pathologized by them. So again, folks' journeys are unique. And I think that is one of the coolest things about what you do, Mom, is highlight so many stories of people's different experiences, because there isn't one right way.
Oh, I have to say, so totally coincidentally, I am doing an interview next week on CPTSD for the other podcast I host, which is called Recoverable. So if you, listener, are on the Giving Voice to Depression Facebook page, you will find it there. I will post it when it comes out. And if you're not, keep an eye on Recoverable, which you can find on YouTube if you want to watch it, or any of the podcast players if you just want to listen and learn more about CPTSD.
PTSD is a diagnosis that really came around after the Vietnam War to help explain what some of the returning vets were experiencing. And CPTSD is something that folks are using a lot more often now for a wide range of reasons. One of them being that the type of pain that is caused by societal conditions. So poverty, racism, sexism, abuse, homophobia. CPTSD is in many ways a natural consequence of some of those realities that people are experiencing. So the P in PTSD stands for post, as if all the damage happened in the past. And there is broader acknowledgement now that for a lot of people, there isn't a post to the trauma unless we really change some of the things that are making life feel unbearable for so many people. One of the things that I wanted to point out from Davey's story, because it is a hard time to be alive, is that Davey had frequent suicidal thoughts and he lived with those. And he made a plan and did a trial run.
That's actually how he started the interview.
Wow.
When I said, "So where were you?" That was the first story he told. And I was like, "Oh, I'm leaving all the details out, but I will say that about it."
Yeah. I did want to share something because suicidality is so freaking scary. And when people hear that someone has thought about ending their life or wished that they weren't here anymore or has suicidal ideation, it totally understandably creates a huge panic in the person who's finding out.
Yes.
There's some data from 2024 that spoke to 14.4 million people in the US reporting serious ideation during that year.
It's a huge number.
And of those, 32% made a plan. So that's less than 1/3. So that means that if 100 people had serious suicidal thoughts, that 68 of those 100 stopped there. And so I think a lot of people associate suicidality with imminent risk. And for some folks, it's really important for their mental health journey to be able to share that they're having suicidal thoughts. And so it is necessary that we get better at talking about suicide and suicidal ideation and letting people share their hopelessness with us at that point, so that we can actually help folks stay safe. The more that people can talk to us and the less stigma there is around sharing ideation, the easier it actually is to help that person get help and to support them in having it stop there. Because as Davey himself said, hang in there, learn your value, don't entertain those thoughts because you deserve much better. You deserve to be in this world. You're needed.
And when you talk about needing to be a safe space for people to share that they have thoughts of suicide, and remember, there's the passive suicidal ideation, which is the end of just like, I'm just done. I just wish I wouldn't wake up, which is entirely different. Also still on the spectrum. But Davey called back after the interview to say that he'd gotten a semicolon tattoo, and a semicolon is a symbol of suicide prevention because it lets you know that while the person who has the tattoo could have ended their story with a period or an exclamation point, they have used a semicolon to continue after that pause. And he got it because he wanted people to know that he, in fact, is a safe space and that they could talk to him. I know.
It takes all of us. It takes all of us. It takes family members. It takes neighbors. It takes friends. It takes partners. It takes therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists. And it takes primary care doctors. And it takes people who are marking their body in permanent ways, saying that I'm a safe person to talk to this about. It requires school counselors. It requires all of us in order to keep each other safe. And I think that Davey's story is just a beautiful testimony to what's possible. And we know that his story is not going to be everyone's story, but he is telling his truth. And so whether that lines up with your own journey or not, or the journey of your loved one, multiple things can be true at the same time. And Davey's truth is that he's in a much better place now. And we're just so glad he thought to share that with us again.
It was great. It's a rare day that we have a former guest call back and say like, hey, especially my doctor said we should do a follow-up. And I just love the image of that conversation, right? He decides to share for some reason in a physical exam about his childhood. The doctor diagnoses him with CPTSD and then says, hey, you should call that woman you talked to on the podcast a decade ago. Very cool. Glad we're still here to hear his story. Glad he's still here to tell it.
I'm glad you're here to listen.
Thanks, babe.
I meant the listeners.
I'm also listening.
We really hope that this discussion helps give some language or context to your own depression or ideas for how to support someone else in your life living with it. We invite you to check out the hundreds of episodes in our archive and to explore both the Resource Hub and treatment options on recovery.com. Depression is too dark a road to walk alone.
We'll be back next week.